And there you go. The Forbidden Door thing is out of the window as one of the surprises. So let's talk about the other surprise here. So this was the qualifying match for the face of the Revolution ladder match. So this is Isaiah Cassidy versus a surprise, you could say, opponent who's going to be the new member of AEW, and it turns out to be Limitless. Keith Lee got a huge reaction. So he shows up, and by the way, it's going to take me a while to get into his team. It's pretty good. It's going to take me a while, but nonetheless, Keith Lee is here. The crowd is loving this guy, and they did the bask in his glory thing that the crowd chanted. Oh, bask in his glory, like super in. Keith Lee is loving this moment. So match begins here with Isaiah Cassidy. Isaiah Cassidy got into the face of Keith Lee. So Lee shoves Cassidy into the corner, and he did, I think, one of the most impressive looking beels that I've seen in wrestling lately. Like, he tossed Isaiah Cassidy almost out of the ring from one corner. And the height that Cassidy got was insane. Like, from the get go, Keith Lee has created a moment. So basically, this match was one sided. Like, he's tossing Cassidy from one corner to the other, and we had a small moment with Mark Quinn in at the outside. Matt Hardy, by the way, when Keith Lee showed up, had a disappointed expression on his face, and this stayed as Keith Lee was dominating Cassidy. Keith Lee even pounced Cassidy outside the ring at one point, and at this point, Matt Hardy said, "Fuck it," and he decided to leave the ring and walk through the crowd, which is I found it funny because this was kind of a reference to what Jeff Hardy did in his last days with WWE in that house show incident.
Yes.
Walking in the middle of the match and through the crowd. That what Jeff Hardy did, basically something similar to that. At this point, I loved it. So back to this match, Keith Lee did the pounds, and Isaiah Cassidy did get some offense in thanks to some distraction by Mark Quinn. So what happened was Isaiah Cassidy hit a, like, Keith Lee was in the apron. Cassidy hit a springboard stunner. Looked very awkward, and you could see Keith Lee saying, "What the fuck was that?" Like, it was that awkward. So Cassidy then hit a tope corkscrew dive, taking out Keith Lee in the process, but it was short lived. At one point, Cassidy was hitting several drop kicks to knock down Keith Lee. He was looking for an enziguri. Keith Lee just swapped him midair, and from there, as we get to the final parts, Keith Lee hit the Big Bang Catastrophe. I don't know what he's going to call it in AEW. He hit that, his version of the jackhammer. Got the 1, 2, 3, and there you go. Keith Lee advances in this Revolution ladder match. Great debut, by the way, with the reaction he was getting. You could say you could nitpick things here and there, but overall, great stuff. And let me get to the post match before I get your thoughts. Post match was Mark Quinn attacking Keith Lee, and we had for a while a 2-on-1 beatdown on the big guy, but it was no prevail. So what happened was, as Keith Lee was knocked outside, Cassidy was looking for a dive, I guess, but he got caught and was dropped to the floor. Isaiah Cassidy, sorry, Mark Quinn, excuse me, was looking for a senton dive, and Keith Lee caught him midair in a powerbomb position, and he powerbombed him basically on his tag team partner until another powerbomb on the apron, and there you go. That was Keith Lee, shining in this moment. Give me your thoughts on Keith Lee and this big debut. Did AW do some favors? How did you like this?
Uh, I really loved it. It was a great showcase for Keith Lee, and Keith Lee, I would say he is a welcome addition to the AEW roster. basically. And you know he is of a different build, so he can attract a mainstream audience as well, and he'll bring something different to the plate, and he is an indie darling. So you have everything, mixed in with Keith Lee. And you know you talked about Matt Hardy. you know his shit was basically that he said on Rampage that if Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn don't get their act together, he would have to think of something else for him. So basically, what was happening in the match, and the match being one-way street for Keith Lee, Matt Hardy thought that I should pack my bags and I should leave. And you talking about, him leaving in a very Jeff Hardy-esque fashion. Absolutely, he did it on purpose. And probably we would see House Hardy pretty soon on AEW television. Uh,
Funny
yes,
enough,
yes.
when they built this surprise, the two main guys were of course Keith Lee and the other was Jeff Hardy. If it was Jeff Hardy, that would have been also been great with how what Matt Hardy is doing with this story with Isaiah Cassidy, that would have made sense. But I think Keith Lee was also a great option. It came out really great, and they even put out a small thing with Jeff Hardy. So, like you said, that's going to be a thing when Jeff Hardy, I think his contract, his 90 days is still running, I guess, but I don't know. But as you were saying, man.
Yes. Uh, Whenever, it makes sense, they would eventually pull the trigger with House Hardy debuting on AW television. It could probably happen at Revolution, post the tag team championship match. They just throw out the surprise appearance of House Hardy. It can happen. We do not know at this point. So let's see. And probably their first match could be against Private Party. Just, you know, on Dynamite, just for the sake of it, to introduce them to the AEW audience and to introduce them to the world that, the Hardy Boys or House Hardy are on AEW television, basically. So let's see. We are
So,
invested.
this Keith Lee signing is actually a big signing for them. Like, let me tell you something here. Keith Lee, if in another universe, if everything was good over there in WWE, he would have made, basically, he would have been the perfect guy to dethrone Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. And Keith Lee would have been the next big thing in that company. But they dropped him. I could say they dropped the ball completely with this guy when he showed up on the main roster. No surprise. And now he's in AEW. This is a game changer for AEW right now. You have another potential guy that could really make sense being their world champion.
Hmm. Hmm. I I cannot comment on that with 100% certainty, but probably yes. The problems with Keith Lee, I cannot comment on that what happened and what didn't. But uh, you know the, we read reports online that there were some health issues. There was something with regards to his health. There were many things that were involved. Basically, there was probably something that was fundamental to this thing. You know, we saw here that when he made his debut, that he seems a little out of shape, but he would get back in shape a little. Yes, he is built different. He brings something else to the table, but he looks a little out of shape. But he would get in shape, obviously, when he gets in the groove, and he appears on television, and he gets in stories. He would eventually get in shape, obviously. He knows that, you know he has to be in shape, obviously, to perform and to be in the mainstream, obviously. But speaking of the problem, probably, I'm not saying with 100% certainty which would have happened with WWE, which was the fundamental problem. I'm not saying the health issues or something. I'm saying the fundamental problem, which would have been the breaking point. It would have been with regards to the name, the copyright thing. I have talked about it probably in one of the reviews in the past, that the people or the talents who do not give the copyrights or something like that to their name to WWE, uh, something problem, basically some problem arises. You know, it happened with EC3. There is a ceiling. There a ceiling arises when you do not give basically the copyrights or the rights to your character name to WWE, or the name to your character isn't given from the WWE machine. So that creates a problem. So probably what has happened, I'm not the word to focus on is probably what happened is Keith Lee didn't give the rights to his name, because it could be many reasons. The future is uncertain. He thinks that he has built that name. He doesn't want to give the rights to his name. And if he is fired, or he wants to work in the independent circuit in the future, so he has the rights to his name, and he can use that name when he is in the independent circuit. So probably he didn't give the rights to his name to WWE to use for merchandise for eternity, like John Cena. uh, Instead, unlike John Cena or Brock Lesnar has. Getting my point? John Cena, Brock Lesnar. The thing is with John Cena is his real name, but he has given the rights to WWE to sell merchandise, to sell anything, to use the name John Cena in video games and everything for eternity. Just saying. And probably the same is the case for Brock Lesnar. But here, in the case of Keith Lee is his real name. It is not a character name. It is his real name. So probably Keith Lee didn't give the rights to his name. So that created a breaking point. So that was the reason why you saw on Monday Night Raw Bearcat Lee, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
You saw
Bearcat
him?
Lee. And before
Yes.
that, they basically stripped him from his original identity. Like
Hmm.
they slowly told him to work differently, like a typical big guy. Then
Hmm.
they basically whatever organic that was, you would see in Keith Lee, it slowly disappeared. They decided to, put a giant vest on him to say he's out of shape. And there you go. That was the end of Keith Lee when he got on the main roster. NXT
Hmm.
Keith Lee, even though he's in the WWE machine, Triple H booked him perfectly. And you
Hmm.
know, when he got into the ring with Lesnar and Roman Reigns initially, he was a made star to be made on the main roster, but no, they failed.
They do that shit for multiple reasons. It is because of the revenue, basically. It is because of the money. Money is the reason. That is the basic reason. Many things boil down to money, basically. You know, they I'm talking about WWE. They do not probably want or basically that this guy makes money from this name Keith Lee, and then he goes out and then he uses that name, people know of him and he makes money. He basically used this platform and he went out, and he doesn't give a shit about us. Basically, he's making money, but we are not making money. We invested in the guy, we gave him a platform of worldwide television, and he went out, basically. But if we would have given him a name, we would have invested in the guy, then we would have used that name, would have made money from that, and he would have made money from that as well. No denying that. It all boils down to revenue, basically. It all boils down to money. If WWE thinks that it is a good deal for both the parties, then they go forward with that. The case with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar gave them the rights that they can use for the merchandise and everything, and he can use his name in the stuff he does outside UFC, whatever the fuck. John Cena, he uses the name John Cena outside movies, Hollywood, whatever the fuck, and WWE uses John Cena here, merchandise, WWE 2K, whatever. So both the parties are benefiting. That is the thing.
But here you
So
go. Keith Lee is in
yes,
AEW. And
so
Hope,
yes.
no, screw the Hope thing. I think Tony Khan gets this one right with Keith Lee
Hmm.
in a different promotion. Whatever the previous promotion could get him right, AEW will finally get it. And this was a good showing.
Hmm. Yes.